I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network, and this is a breaking news alert. We are learning now that Donald Trump had ordered an employee at Mar-A-Lago to hide and conceal and move the records that he was hiding in the storage area after he received a grand jury subpoena from the Department of Justice in mid-May. He directed this employee, again, to move these documents outside of the storage area. In addition, we are learning that this is also corroborated by the surveillance footage that the Department of Justice obtained through its subpoena of the Trump Organization, where they subpoenaed surveillance footage from Mar-A-Lago showing that indeed these documents were moved following a grand jury subpoena that was sent to Donald Trump in mid-May of this year. Let me just rewind briefly to situate this time frame for you. Donald Trump leaves the White House in January of 2021. He packs all these records with him, brings them to Mar-A-Lago, puts them in U-Hauls, ships them over. The GSA says, look, you got to return the documents to the National Archives. You got to return the documents that don't belong to you. Trump ignores it, takes it all to Mar-A-Lago. The National Archives realize that he stole these records. They start approaching him in May, June, maybe April of 2021. Perhaps they should have done it sooner. They were trying, they argue, to be respectful over the fact that he had just lost and he was a one-term loser president. So they wanted to respect his, his leaving the White House very quickly. But then they say, hey, we need our documents back. He obstructs, he stops, he tries to prevent this from happening. Finally, in January of 2022, he's like, fine, you want some of these records back? Let me give you these boxes of records back. It's being reported that Donald Trump himself cherry-picked these documents, put them in 15 boxes, returned them to the National Archives, and was like, that's it. There are no other records. The National Archives opens up these boxes, and like between newspaper clippings are top secret classified records, records that are at the highest level of our national security classified records. And so the National Archives is like, all right, this is a big problem. They make a referral to the Department of Justice, and based on what was turned over, they're also confident that he's hiding additional records. Now the Department of Justice gets involved, and they're having these communications with Trump's lawyers. They're like, you better give us these records back. We need our records, and you can't steal top secret classified records. Finally, in June of 2022, Donald Trump's lawyer, Evan Corcoran, and another lawyer, Christina Bobb, who's now claiming she was not his lawyer, but a custodian of records, they get a grand jury subpoena from, first they get the grand jury subpoena from the Department of Justice in May. They then respond to the Department of Justice top counterintelligence officials on June 3rd, and they say, look, we got our records for you. This is everything. We've conducted a diligent search. We have it in this red weld folder. It's sealed. Christina Bobb, Evan Corcoran, they do not make any objections. They do not assert attorney-client privilege. They do not say executive privilege. They do not talk about declassifying any records. They just say, here's the red weld. Here's everything you asked for. And then Christina Bobb signs this declaration on or around June 3rd that says a diligent search was made, that there were no copies that have been made. Here are all of the records. There are no other records, she says, based on what was told to her. This representation is made to the Department of Justice. And then the Department of Justice, based on their investigation and their sources, say all of the records have not been turned over. He is still hiding classified records and our nation's highest level of classified records, top secret, sensitive, compartmented information at Mar-A-Lago. And so they get a search warrant. The Judge Reinhart, a magistrate judge in the Southern District, signs it on August 5th. The search warrant is executed at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th. Christina Bobb did not do a diligent search. They did not return all of the records, because within a very short period of time, the Department of Justice and the FBI, in executing the valid search warrant on Mar-A-Lago, identified at least 103 other classified records with the highest level of our nation's classified records there. And it's believed that this even includes nuclear secrets, as well as 11,000 other government documents that Donald Trump stole and that Donald Trump refused to return. Donald Trump, of course, filed this motion for judicial oversight 2 or 3 weeks later before Judge Eileen Cannon. Judge Eileen Cannon granted the special master process. The Department of Justice appealed to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit gave the Department of Justice the classified records back and said that part shouldn't go to the special master. Trump appealed that to the Supreme Court. The Department of Justice just responded there. And the Department of Justice has filed an overall appeal saying Judge Eileen Cannon should not have asserted equitable jurisdiction in the first place. Now, this new breaking news that we are reporting on today, that this employee, after that May grand jury subpoena issues served on Trump directly, according to this reporting from the Washington Post and confirmed by CNN and many other media outlets as well, Trump orders this employee to move these records away from the storage facility to other locations. That's obstruction. That right there is a crime, to remove them from where they were and to hide them in other locations. In addition, the Department of Justice also sent a subpoena for the video surveillance from the Trump organization, and so they are aware that this movement is taking place. What's been reported at first is that this employee lied. This employee had told the Department of Justice that the documents hadn't moved, that everything was being complied with, that Trump didn't order him to or her to do anything. But then the Department of Justice continued, likely confronted the employee with the surveillance footage or told the employee that they learned more. And then that employee basically confessed and said, "You got me. This is what Donald Trump asked me to do as soon as he got your grand jury subpoena to return those records that he was hiding. He had me move it. That's why you probably see me on that surveillance footage." And that employee is now cooperating with the Department of Justice, has been cooperating with the Department of Justice. Now the question is, too, who do we think told the press this story? I have my thoughts. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. But one of the things we know is that last Friday, Christina Bobb, the custodian of records, who was apparently Trump's lawyer, but now claims she's not Trump's lawyer, which is great because there's no attorney-client privilege, she spoke with the Fed. She spoke with the Department of Justice regarding her false declaration. And she had told the Feds, according to a number of reports, that Evan Corcoran, Trump's lawyer who had been dealing with the National Archives and the Department of Justice, he was the one who had told her that all of the records were returned and that a diligent search was done. So now from the reporting claims that this employee moved these records before a lawyer was able to do the inspection or to do their search to certify under penalty of perjury that a diligent search was done. So it's my view that the likely suspect here is either Evan Corcoran, who Christina Bobb pointed out, he was the one who told me a diligent search was made. So it would make sense that Evan Corcoran's defense now is, I did do a diligent search. I looked in that area. The boxes were removed. The reason the boxes were removed, though, is because Donald Trump ordered this employee to take those boxes and to remove those boxes and to put those boxes in another location, and I wasn't even told that. So that's why I think Evan Corcoran is a likely suspect. But in any event, it could be the employee, it could be the Department of Justice, it could be a number of sources, but likely, as Christina Bobb points to Evan Corcoran saying, well, I'm going to be thrown under the bus, I'm going to get indicted. I did a search. Trump was the one who hid these records even from me. But the fact that this is now all connecting directly to Trump, I mean, think about it in terms of intent. Trump was the one, according to all of these reports, which thus far have been very, very accurate, he was the one who cherry-picked the records back in January of 2022 himself. He packed those 15 boxes himself and tried to hide the classified records within newspaper clippings. Come on. And he was the one who returned that to the National Archives, like they weren't going to open it up and look through it for real. And now we're seeing that he was the one who ordered this employee to obstruct and to hide these records. This is big, big news, folks, that Donald Trump was the one. If this reporting is accurate and the sourcing is accurate, which it appears to be very, very accurate, that Donald Trump was the one who made the direction to an employee to hide these records. Again, that is obstruction 101. Remember the charges that Trump is being investigated for: violation of the Espionage Act, concealment and mutilation of the records, and obstruction. Obstruction carries with it a 20-year prison sentence per each obstruction count. And that right there seems like a home run case, a clear-cut case, a bulletproof case, if you will, of obstruction. So we will keep you updated again as we learn more. This employee evidently is still engaged in cooperating with the Department of Justice. A big, big, big development, big news, and also helps us understand more how the Department of Justice was aware that there were additional records that Donald Trump was still obstructing, still hiding at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th, that they are getting information from the inside, from people who Donald Trump ordered to commit crimes who are working with the Department of Justice. Now, what else does the Department of Justice believe as well? That he's hiding other records still in Bedminster. They believe he's hiding other records at the Trump Tower, and that they still have not received all of the records. Obviously, one of the things that they identified in connection with the August 8th search warrant executed at Mar-A-Lago was a number of empty folders with classified markings, about 40 empty folders with classified markings, or that had markings that said return to the military for military eyes only. Empty folders. Where did those documents go? And as I mentioned in another video, it does appear as well that one of the things the Department of Justice is focused on is whether Trump made photocopies, written notations, and other things about these records, which he further wouldn't be allowed to do. Donald Trump is going to get indicted, folks. It's a matter of when. I'm very comfortable, I'm very confident that based on the information that we have, I firmly believe that they are going to indict Donald Trump. The question is when, but Merrick Garland has been slowly but surely building this case, really focused, head down, doing the hard work. The wheels of justice move slower than you would like, slower than I would like, but you have to take a step back for a second and really appreciate the level of diligence by the Department of Justice at all angles with this investigation, anticipating all of the maniacal obstruction efforts, actually the underlying obstruction efforts regarding the documents, but then all of the steps that Trump was going to take to try to derail the Department of Justice's actions, the search warrant. They anticipated all those moves, not just one or two or three chess moves ahead, but like 20 chess moves ahead of Donald Trump checkers. Almost checkmate. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hey, hit the subscribe button right now. We are on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to you. Subscribing is free, so what are you doing by not subscribing? Hit the subscribe button. In addition, if you want to help grow this independent media channel, we are not funded by any outside investors at all. We're powered by democracy and fueled by you by going to patreon.com/MeidasTouch. No matter where you live in the world, you can help grow this media network together, this community most importantly, together. That's patreon.com/MeidasTouch. Check out these incredible membership packages over there. Don't worry if you don't subscribe over there at Patreon, you're still going to get all the great content here. But if you want to help grow that, knowing that we don't have investors, check it out. Patreon.com/MeidasTouch, no matter where you are in the world. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network.
This November is Rowvember. MeidasTouch just released its brand new collection of Rowvember t-shirts and pins to let the country know what's at stake this upcoming midterm election. Go to store.meidastouch.com to grab yours. That's store.meidastouch.com.